The phone call came at 2:14 a.m. My wife thought I was asleep. I wasn't. I lay still in the darkness, eyes open, breathing slow. The way you do when you pretend to be someone else in your own house. Her voice floated down the hallway. Low, urgent, whispering. No, we can't keep searching like this. Silence. Then she said something that made my chest feel hollow. People are starting to ask questions. A man's voice answered, through the speaker. Calm, confident. I recognized it instantly. Ethan, her gym trainer, her motivational coach, her late-night text messages. We need to let this fade, he said. Fade. They were talking about my son. My 8-year-old boy had been missing for 3 days, and the two people who should have been screaming the loudest were discussing how to stop looking. My wife paced across the living room floor. I could hear every step. Daniel will never stop, she whispered. My name sounded strange in her mouth. Cold. Distant. Ethan chuckled softly. He will when the police close the case. Something inside me went quiet. Not anger. Not panic. Something colder. A calculation beginning to form. My wife exhaled. I just want this nightmare to end. So did I. But not the way she thought. The next morning she made pancakes. Like nothing had happened. Like our son wasn't missing. Like she hadn't whispered conspiracies into the darkness hours earlier. I watched her from across the kitchen table. The way she smiled. The way she avoided my eyes. Small things begin to glow when you know where to look. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She flipped it face down instantly. Too fast! Police called? She asked. No, I said. A lie. They had called. But something about the conversation. Last night told me something worse than negligence was happening. She sat across from me. Her hands trembled slightly as she sipped coffee. Fear? Guilt? Or something else? I think, she began softly, maybe we should prepare ourselves. For what? Her eyes lifted carefully. The possibility that we may never find him. The words landed like a knife wrapped in velvet, carefully delivered, emotionally rehearsed. I nodded slowly. Inside my mind, a quiet machine started working. Because grief has a smell, and hers didn't smell like grief. It smelled like relief. That afternoon, I visited the gym. Ethan was exactly what I expected. Tall, confident, the type of man who believed every room existed for him. He recognized me immediately. Daniel, right? Your wife talks about you. Of course she did. He extended a hand. I shook it. His grip was firm, arrogant. Terrible situation with your boy, he said. His voice was perfectly sympathetic. Too perfect. Actors rehearse sympathy. Parents drown in it. I smiled. Yeah. Then I watched his eyes. Not his words. Eyes tell the truth. And his never showed grief. Only calculation. The same calculation I had heard at 2:14 a.m. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Truth hates noise. It prefers patience. So I waited. I checked phone records first. Her number. Ethan's number. Hundreds of calls. Late nights. Early mornings. Then the messages. Deleted from her phone. But not from the cloud backup she forgot existed. Photos. Hotel reservations. A small cabin rented 2 weeks before my son disappeared. 3 nights. 2 guests. Her. And Ethan? I stared at the screen for a long time. Not angry. Just observing. A life dissolving under a microscope. Then I checked financial records. Something else caught my eye. A payment. Large. Transferred to Ethan. 3 days before my son vanished. The note field was empty. But money always tells a story. You just have to listen. Meanwhile, I played the grieving father. Spoke with police. Handed out flyers. Appeared on local news asking for help. My wife cried perfectly on camera. Trembling voice. Red eyes. The performance was impressive. But every night, at 2:14 a.m., her phone lit up, and she whispered to Ethan again. They're losing interest. Good, he would reply. One night I heard something else. Something small, but devastating. What if they find him? She asked. Silence. Then Ethan answered calmly. They won't. That was the moment I understood. My son wasn't lost. He had been removed, and someone had been paid. The truth arrived 4 days later. Not from the police. From a private investigator I hired quietly. I slid the folder open at my desk. Inside were photos. Ethan, my wife, and a third man. A criminal with a long record. Kidnapping, extortion, human trafficking. The investigator's note was simple. Your wife and Ethan met this man 2 weeks before your son disappeared. There were more photos, a parking lot meeting, cash exchanged. Then the final document, a bus ticket, purchased under a false name. Destination, Mexico. Passenger, an 8-year-old boy matching my son's description. I sat very still. The room felt silent. Heavy. They hadn't just stopped searching. They had arranged his disappearance. Sold their problem. For money. For freedom. For each other. That evening, my wife walked into the living room. I handed her the folder. She flipped through the photos slowly. Her face drained of color. Then she looked at me, eyes wide. How? I asked only one question. Where is our son? Her lips trembled. I didn't think... She collapsed into the chair, crying, shaking, broken, but my voice stayed calm. You didn't think I'd find out. She begged. Of course she did. Said Ethan convinced her. Said she panicked. Said it was supposed to be temporary. Temporary, as if a child could be stored somewhere like luggage. I let her talk. Then I turned on the television. The evening news began, and suddenly her crying stopped because she saw herself. And Ethan, hidden camera footage, meetings, cash exchanges, everything. Broadcast nationwide, police raids, arrests. The kidnapper already in custody. He had talked. Apparently, the reward money I offered for information had been persuasive. My wife looked at me slowly. You did this? I nodded. Yes. She whispered something then. Something small. What reward money? That's when I told her. About the accounts she never knew existed. About the businesses. The investments. The hidden fortune. $500 million. Her eyes widened with a mixture of horror and understanding. I hadn't just exposed her. I had destroyed the future she thought she was building. And Ethan? The news cut to his arrest. Handcuffed. Shouting. Panicking. Everything he thought he controlled, collapsing. 2 weeks later, my son came home. Shaken, but alive. He hugged me harder than he ever had before. Children don't understand betrayal. They only understand safety. My wife sat in a prison cell, awaiting trial. Ethan in another. Separate. Both talking. Blaming each other. Desperate. My phone rang constantly. Family. Friends. Reporters. 71 missed calls from one number. My daughter-in-law. The same woman who once shouted at me over the phone, "If you want to join Thanksgiving, come wash the dishes." I never answered. Instead, I posted a single photo online. My son and I standing on the balcony of my villa in Switzerland. Snow falling. Mountains quiet. Peaceful. A life far away from betrayal. The phone kept ringing. But I had already learned something important. When people show you who they truly are, you don't argue. You don't forgive. You simply close the door and never look back.